They're tots. I know Jack and Patricia were expecting me to say astronauts, artstronauts, but I changed it up today. Welcome back to the International Imagination Station. This is our Draw Artemis Live Saturday noon special. I am so happy you decided to spend part of your day with me. We've got a great 1 hour drawing episode with you today. We have a special NASA contractor. He's an engineer with the crawler systems. That's what we're going to draw today, this giant crawler machine. Wait till you see, it's awesome. Backed by popular demand, we have Ed Heck from New York City. Yeah, he's so cool. Wait till you see his drawings. You probably have already seen them. Now, if you've missed any of the past 6 episodes, this is our 7th episode. Can you believe that? 7 episodes. Now, if you've missed any of the past 6, be sure to go to YouTube. They're streaming 24/7. You can see them. Go to my Mark Kistler YouTube channel and you can look at the past. Go to my playlist and not click our Draw Artemis program. We also today we have Diane Kelly. She's our social media liaison. She's going to be taking the comments. So if you have comments or questions, be sure to text and she'll tell Jack and Patricia and our special guest Dan. They'll be answering questions. And also we have the amazing, the talented, the geniuses, Jack and Patricia Moore. They're going to be directing and taking us through this wonderful episode. So remember, I'm glad you're here. I hope you have paper and pencil. I hope you moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandparents are going to draw with us, because if you can write your name, you can draw. Please share this link right now. Share it with all your friends within your little creative tribe, so we'll get a whole flock of creative people drawing with us today. I can't wait to start, so let's roll our video.
We're taking off from the Kennedy Space Center, our multi-user spaceport. I'm Yves Lamoth, and we're cruising on the Crawler Transporter 2. With us today is John Giles, the Crawler Transporter project manager, here to tell us a little bit more about the crawler. What exactly is the Crawler Transporter used for?
We will take the launch vehicles out to the pad and the ML and whatever anybody asks us to. And we've been doing it for over 50 years. Everything that's launched from pad 39A or B rode out there on one of our 2 crawlers.
So the Crawler Transporter is massive, and you said it goes at a top speed of 2 miles an hour. Is it because of how heavy it is? How much does the Crawler Transporter weigh?
So the crawler itself weighs about 6.6 million pounds, which is actually kind of small compared to we carry things that are 10, 12, 14 million pounds. So what we'll do is we'll travel underneath something. We'll go underneath it, we'll pick it up, like the ML, for instance, with a launch vehicle on board, and we'll jack it up, we'll take it out, we'll drop down to our cruising level, and then we'll go out to the pad on top of a specifically prepared crawler way, which consists of about 1 foot of rocks. And then below the rocks are about 4 feet of hydraulically compressed limestone. And then below that is many feet of sand that's been compressed to support all of our weight.
Another question is, how do you see in front or behind you with how big the Crawler Transporter is?
So we will actually have a team of about 20 personnel that go with us the whole way out there that'll either be on board or walking alongside, and everyone will be on radios and in contact with each other, and the driver will frequently say, hey, somebody on the other side of the crawler, tell me how close I'm getting to this. So we have eyes all over it.
So one of the things that I've noticed is the pad, it goes up a hill, so to speak. So how does the Crawler Transporter handle bringing the rocket up there without it tipping over?
So the crawler has its own unique leveling system on it, and once it determines that we're out of level, we have what we call a gel system, which stands for jacking, equalization, and leveling. And it's basically a hydraulic system that once it's told by the manometer system to level us, will actually make adjustments and keep us at whatever level we want to be. So the incline going up to the pad is about 5 degrees. So as we go up to it, the crawler will actually articulate 5 degrees, so it keeps the ML and the launch vehicle on top.
Wow. That is a huge, huge transporter. I don't even know how I'm going to fit that giant, huge thing on one piece of paper, but we're going to try it. But let's warm up with a sketch first. Come on, go ahead and switch to my hand cam here, and we're gonna draw today the transport right here. This crawler transporter. You can get this draw Artemis lesson. You can download from NASA.gov, and I downloaded mine. I'm going to follow it. The whole idea of drawing this one is perspective, is using alignment. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to warm up with this idea of alignment of perspective. So I'm just going to very loosely draw a light horizon line. Just draw a line straight across. That's called a horizon. Horizontal. A horizontal is going to horizontal with the top of your paper and the bottom of your paper. And what we're going to do, and I'll be using this for the transporter too, the crawler, is I'm going to draw just a vertical line. All right. Now, remember, I want everybody to draw with me. You parents, you grandparents, you aunts, you uncles. Remember, you have the license to flop. I want to encourage you to step out of your comfort zone and try to take a creative risk today. All right. You have to fail to succeed. Your drawings don't have to be perfect. All right. No stress, you guys. Right? No stress. Let me hear everybody in the studio here say beep beep. Stress is on the bus.
Beep 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 beep.
Stress is on the bus.
That's on the bus. Thumbs up. Yeah. No stress, you guys. Just enjoy and relax. Now, this one's a little more technical than our past 6 episodes, but it's a really cool one. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now, put a dot below the middle. Now, what we're going to do, and I'll be doing the same idea with the crawler transporter. I'm going to use a horizon line, 2 vanishing points. Now, these are alignment lines. Now, from this point, I'm going to go up to this line right here. To that, I'm going to call that my vanishing point. And from this point, I'm going to go to this point, drawing. All right. Now, we're going to draw the box. Usually, in the past episodes, look up here. Usually, I do this. I put 2 dots, and I put my finger in the middle, and I put a dot above and below my finger. Go ahead and draw that with me, okay? Usually, this is how I usually draw a box, a cube, and it's a very great, it's a quick, easy way to draw a foreshortened square. There's 12 Renaissance words of drawing, and that's one of them, probably the most important. Squish and distort. We're squishing a square. Now, if you've seen me before on public television or any of my YouTube or my daily live Zoom feeds, you know I draw a lot of these cubes because it's a great practice shape. So this is what I call the drawing compass. All right. Now, this is a chart. You can download this for free from my website. Check it out. From the Draw 3D site. Go to the printables and download this. The drawing compasses, we're going to be using this when we draw the crawler transport. I call this direction northeast, and I call this direction northwest. I call this direction right here southwest, and I call this direction southeast. Now, these are the 4 positions that most artists use most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So go ahead. Did you guys draw that? If you drew that and you're comfortable with that, send Diana a text right now on your YouTube or your Facebook and just say, yeah, I nailed it. I got it. Take your finger and say, aha, I understand. So this is a simple way to draw the cube. Now, what we're going to do, let me show you in this book here. I'll show you in my You Can Draw in 30 Days book. Here, I'm going to go here. I want to show you how we're going to use this vanishing point. And this is in lesson 26. Look at, I used a vanishing point here and a vanishing point here, and we drew the city. Imagine we're going to put the crawler transporter right down here where the city is. Here's another version of it. Looking up and looking down. Basically, that's what we're doing. We're going to look up and look down at but we'll put the crawler below your eye level down in this area, okay? So to practice for the crawler, put a dot here. Let's take the simple version of the box and draw this. I'm just going to use you can use a ruler. You can use a ruler right here, put a dot, and you can line it up. I'll do that later, but right now I'm just going to do it freehand, lining up with the vanishing point. And this is what they said. This what when I was reading the lesson from the Artemis team, they do such a great job. They mentioned the word perspective, getting some perspective in step one. And perspective is really the idea of lining things up. Look what I'm doing. I'm lining things up. Does that make sense? Lining things up. So we're just going to draw the box here. Watch this. I'm lining the top. And of course, I want you to draw lightly to begin with. Lining perspective. It's rooted, that word perspective is rooted in the ancient Latin word spec. Spec, right? Spec, which is to view or to see. To view or to see. Think of the word like perspective is to view depth, to view near and far, right? Near and far. That's what we're trying to do today, create near and far. Other words that have spec in it, like inspector, right? To look for clues, or spectacle. They used to call my glasses spectacles, right? Back in the turn of the century, to view or to see. Introspection, right? That has the word spec in it, which is to see inside, right? To view inside yourself. So think of that, the word perspective, as to view or to see depth. D-E-P-T-H. That's what our goal is, to create the illusion of depth. All right? So this was an easy way to draw it. And now, just for giggles, watch this. Put a dot right up here. And we're not going to use this in the lesson today, but I want to show you something really cool. Let's go above. Let's say you're standing here. Let's say this is you. All right, here you are. You're standing here, and you're looking up. And you're looking up, and you see that this is your eye level right here. You're looking up. So watch this. The top of the box. I'm gonna put a floating box up here. I'm going to put a floating box just really quick using alignment. So using alignment. See, I'm doing a freehand. You could use, see how all these lines light up and make a cool grid? You guys having fun? Do you love this? If you guys are drawing this and if you love it, give a thumbs up to your Facebook or your YouTube. Right, thumbs up. I think, isn't that cool? All right, so there we go. So I just showed you really simply how the simple northeast, southwest, southeast, and northwest is applied to the vanishing point. It's rooted in the Latin word spec, perspective, to view depth and to see near and far. Well, I love teaching drawing. You can tell we're just going to go crazy with our drawing the crawler transporter. But let me introduce our special guest today. We have Dan. We have Dan and Sam. Dan, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everyone.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, actually, we'll get more into the detailed introduction in just a second. I'm just so glad to have you guys here, and our hour-long rehearsal yesterday was fascinating. I could have talked to you guys all night, so thanks for being here today. Back by popular demand. Back, we have Ed Heck. Ed Heck's here. Woo! Ed, I can't wait to start drawing with you today. It's going to be awesome. Diane's ready. Diane Kelly, she's ready to take your social media questions. And of course, we have Jack and Patricia Moore. Hey, Jack. Hey, Patricia.
Hey, how's it going?
Are you ready? So you guys go ahead and take it away, and I'm going to start drawing the crawler transporter.
Awesome. All right. Well, so we're going to kick it off to Dan. He's our special guest. His name is Dan Zapata, and he works at Kennedy Space Center for Jacobs, which is one of the contractors for NASA. And his role is to take care of the crawler transporter and also to drive it. So he's going to tell us all about the transporter. There's so much really neat history, and it's one of the most amazing pieces of machinery, I think, out there. So Dan, why don't you begin and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe how you ended up working for Jacobs and with NASA, and then we can just jump right in and talk about the crawler.
Sure, no problem. I've been working for Jacobs for about 3.5 years now, and I've been enjoying every minute of it. You know, it's a unique experience being out at Kennedy Space Center and also being able to drive unique vehicles, that is an historic vehicle that is the crawler transporter. I graduated from UCF in 2015. And I was actually working for a different company in Orlando after graduating. Just looking for a change of pace to get out of the desk and be more working on what I've been studying on and learn the schematics that I was studying on, and I saw there was a job opening for a Jacobs task at Kennedy Space Center and for the crawler transporter group, and I knew nothing about what was involved with the crawler group, not much about KSC, but I decided to go for it, and had a good interview, and now I'm here.
Here you
3.5 years later.
That's so cool. So why don't you start off by telling us what the crawler transporter is, and then if any point you want me to show any of the videos I have, just let me know.
Okay, no problem. So the crawler transporter is a large, a very large and heavy transporter that carries the mobile launch platforms and the flight vehicle from the vehicle assembly building to about 4.5 miles to the launch pad B. So without the crawler transporter, you can never get your your large space flight vehicles to the pad. It's a very important piece of equipment, and it's actually been transporting rockets since the Apollo program. It's
Wow.
transported every Apollo rocket, Saturn V rocket, every space shuttle was transported by one of the two crawlers.
That's amazing. So how was it built? Like, who built it? How did it come about? And then why don't you tell us about like how big it is, how wide it is, how much it can carry?
So back in the early 60s, or late 50s, early 60s, when the space shuttle, the Apollo program was coming up, that they had an issue carrying the large Saturn V rocket built at the time from the vehicle assembly building to the pad. So different groups proposed ideas such as a barge system or rail system, and both of those had different issues regarding them. And then along came this company from Marion, Ohio, called the Marion Power Shovel Company, that proposed using their mining equipment, just scaled up to meet the needs of NASA and carry the Saturn V rocket. So NASA approved that idea. It was novel at the time. It was nothing like that had ever been done.
Yeah.
And this crawler itself was made with different large, rigid pieces of metal transported to the area where is now the crawler maintenance facility where I work. They transported those large pieces of metal and they welded them together to make the chassis, which is where all the equipment is, all the engines, the control rooms, the different rooms like that, and the 4 separate trucks. They were all welded together, mostly using plates, trusses, and beams, and some were bolted together so they could be removed for later modifications and operations.
That's crazy. So the two that we have were built in the 60s.
That's correct. I believe from history, they started building them in early 1963, and they finished construction around the middle of 1965, and then the first successful rollout. Of course, with a brand new system, there were issues in the beginning, but the first successful rollout was December of 1965.
Wow.
And they've been rolling Saturn V rockets, space shuttles, and soon to be SLS rockets ever since.
Yeah, we've got a SLS rocket right in the back of. I'm going to put the camera on you, Ed, so everybody can see that SLS rocket right behind you. That's awesome. That's what's going to ride and go for a drive on the crawler transporter. That's cool.
Yep. And the
It's
crawler
like an Uber
itself,
for SLS.
yeah,
Yeah, I wonder how much that ride costs, right?
I'm not sure, but it's up there.
It's up there.
You're
Yeah, but
You're talking about all the metal and the beams. I feel that right now. There's so much detail in this thing, and as you're looking at this and you're trying to figure out how to draw it for everybody online, we do have a guide.
Really detailed. It's
So
like
we
doing
have,
an engineer schematic.
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the crawler itself is about 131 feet long, 114 feet wide, with its height varying based on our jacking levels between 20 and 26 feet. So just to give you a reference, in that area, you could fit about 70 regular-sized school buses.
Wow.
So it's a big piece of equipment.
It is a big piece of equipment. That's awesome. So we know that you drive or you operate. What's the right term? Is it drive or operate?
Drive. Crawler driver.
All right.
And I know not to say wheels, that they're...
Yeah, you don't
but
say
there's
wheels.
shoes. There's shoes or treads. Did I get it?
Shoes, they create the treads, so either or I think is fair, but just never call them wheels.
Never called
They're
wheels.
not.
All right, so I've got
I learned that last night. Okay, don't call them wheels.
No.
You
So
have
I've
to
got
tread lightly, Mark.
tread lightly.
Tread
That's
lightly
right.
on that, exactly.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull up the video of you driving, and why don't you just kind of walk us through what it's like and how it maneuvers and all the cool things that nobody would know about the crawler.
Sure. So before we drive, we operate the crawler, we always do a pre-operational checks. You know, we do our walk downs, we configure our systems, we warm up our engines, and we do comm checks. You always got to do that beforehand. Just get any bugs, any errors that might come up. And then we start configuring for onboard power. So the crawler in standby is just plugged in to a 480 volt receptacle, and it's getting shore power. And to get the crawler moving, we need to bring up our onboard systems, our motors, our pumps, our hydraulic systems, so we can actually get the crawler moving. So we go ahead and proceed doing that. We have mechanics in the engine rooms overseeing startup, getting our engines and generators up to rated speeds. We have a test conductor and some engineers in the control room, controlling the systems using our computer systems. And we have an engineer, usually two engineers in the cab, one driving, one overseeing, actually propelling the crawler.
And you have two cabs, right? There's two different drivers at the same time.
Well, usually not at the same time.
Okay.
We do have two cabs though. They are caddy corners, so one is opposite adjacent corner. And so if we're propelling out to the pad, we would use the N3 cab, such as this one right here, as you can see in the video. If we're coming back to our yard, we would take cab 1.
Okay. So
But there is an instance where we do use two cabs, and that's later on when we get closer. We've got to do precise adjustments with docking.
Got it. So I see how slow those treads are moving.
Yep.
What's the top speed it can go, and what are you only allowed to go? What is the?
Well, you know, I'm kind of low on the experience poll for what I'm allowed to do. You know, I gotta be careful with that. But usually unloaded is about 0.8 to about 1 mile an hour when we're going through straightaways. We slow down, of course, to about 0.5, 0.6 for turns. But with a vehicle, we're usually limited to about 0.8 miles an hour. And there are certain obstacles that we go through as we go through the crawler way, such as asphalt roads, where we slow down to about 0.3 miles an hour just to keep the asphalt in place. Because if we were to go too fast, those crawler shoes and that tread would pull the asphalt out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
No, you don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that. So what's the most difficult part or aspect of driving the crawler?
So even though the crawler goes slow from what we think slow is, it can catch up to you if you're not paying attention in the driver's cab. So it's very important to always be paying attention and planning ahead with how you're going to maneuver the crawler.
Okay.
You only have 6 degrees steering either way. So that is actually not a lot of steering. The crawler is designed to turn on 500-foot radiuses, and certain turns out there are exactly 500 feet. So if you don't have that turn, the amount of turn you need in way before you need it, you're gonna be in trouble.
Oh wow, yeah. So I really like one of the great things about this program, and I'm sorry about my dogs, are somewhat.
I love it. It's a joy of life.
Right.
The joy of life.
Yeah, they're really excited about our lawn crew team is here right during the program.
Oh, we had our lawn crew as well.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy right now.
It's live.
Yeah, it's live, right? So one of the great things about the Draw Artemis events that we do with Mark and all of his guest artists is all the artists kind of do their own perspective in for the drawings. And so I want to show you guys Ed's drawing right now. He's got more of a close-up area to where you would be sitting, right, Dan? Is that you, or is that a little fox? I can't tell.
Yeah, I might have the fox costume on. It might have been Halloween that day.
I put a raccoon in there because Dan told us a little story yesterday during rehearsal about a raccoon that found its way into
Oh,
the crawler.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
Rocky the raccoon.
That's right. You
I
should.
put him back in there.
All right. Well, since Ed mentioned it, you got to tell us the story now.
So, Kennedy Space Center is also shares space with a nature preserve. So we see a lot of wild animals all the time. We see boars, deers, a few alligators, and in this instance, there was a raccoon that got on the crawler, and this was the morning of a big operation that we had to perform. And as we were doing our pre-op inspections, a couple guys saw something scurry along one of the cable trays of the crawler, and when they checked to see what it was, they saw the two beady eyes just staring back at them.
No.
And it was a full-size raccoon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Since we're on a nature preserve, we're
But you
not allowed
saved
to
them.
contact. So we're not allowed to come in contact with animals that inhabit the area, but we called the environmental services and they come out with a little grabber, and after a couple minutes they were able to get the raccoon off the crawlerway so we can start operations.
Yeah, he was making a new home. He liked the crawler.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool house.
Yeah, he
huh?
did. He
I
got
have
his
to-
feet full of the crawler grease, and his paw prints are all over the crawler.
I would have to imagine you get a hitchhiker every now and then, and I wonder if there's ever like a turtle, and he's like, "Slow down! It's too fast." It's all perspective, right?
Right.
That's so funny. All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit? Oop, that's not what I want to show you.
We're
Here we
taking
go.
off
Oop,
from the
my click's going crazy. Sorry about that, guys. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like maybe the most interesting experience, or like maybe the coolest moment you've had driving the crawler? Is there one that kind of stands out among others?
So I believe it's both the coolest and the most stressful experience. This would be when we were practicing docking operations. Sometimes the mobile launcher itself, the one with the mobile launcher platform with the tower, is still under construction. So we use mobile launch platforms instead, which is the platform minus the tower, and we use that in one exercise. And I was able to be the driver as we were docking in to simulate putting the platform down. And I'm only going, the crawler in docking is going 0.1 miles an hour. I'm barely moving. The treads are barely moving. And I'm listening to my observers, and I'm also using my laser docking system to get within dead center of where we need to get to. And it was nerve-wracking because people were, all eyes were on you. Everybody was, wanting to get this done. We had our own pride to get it center, as close to the perfect center as we could, and you're barely touching that speed command pot, and so long story short.
During the rehearsal, sorry, you go ahead.
Long story short, we got it there, and we were within about 1/4 inch of dead center, and we were all really happy with that.
1/4 inch, so you can move it at that little tiny increments, as small as a half quarter inch for something that carries a skyscraper on its back.
You can. It has a very, very touch sensitive controls on there.
And there was different ways, different terms of what positions, different driving modes of the trucks.
Right. So there are 3 driving modes with the crawler. The first is what we normally use for regular driving in the crawlerway, which is called Great Circle. So if you're in one cab, the 2 trucks in front of you will be going and making a left turn. The trucks will be making the front trucks will go left and the back trucks will go right. For crab mode, if you make a left turn, the front will go left and the back will go left. So you're kind of moving diagonally. And for docking, to get more precise turns, you have 2 cab drivers, one in the front, one in the back, and they each control their 2 sets of trucks. So I might want to go right and the back guy might want to go left, or we might both want to go right or both want to go left.
Huh.
So it's very useful.
Yeah, and
to
it
have
sounds like
those
there's
modes.
quite a bit of coordination that needs to take place. So
Yes.
you say you have crew or other teammates that help
Yes,
help you along. I've got a picture of you and your team, and let me go to that so everyone can see. Why don't you tell us about the different roles while you're driving it out? Because I know there's lots of folks supporting the one or two drivers that are driving the crawler.
Right. So the picture on the left is a picture of the crawler engineers and our NASA counterparts. And the team it's consisting of about 10 engineers, about 16 plus mechanics, and about 8 or so electricians. And they all have different roles and responsibilities, where the mechanics are in charge of operating and overseeing the engines, the pumps and hydraulics, pneumatic systems as well. Electricians configure the circuit breakers. They oversee electronics. They oversee propel motors, and they both electricians and mechanics will act as observers on the ground, directing the crawler and being another set of eyes on the ground for the crawler driver. Engineers are the drivers. They're the test conductors, and they also operate the jacking, equalizing, leveling systems. It keeps the crawler level.
Wow, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot, yeah. It's about 30 plus people that's required to move the crawler in any operation.
That's amazing. So I got a message from Diane, and it looks like we've got a couple of questions. So Diane, I'm going to come to you, and why don't you ask the questions from Facebook and YouTube?
That's good.
I can't hear you, Diane. Oh, I think your mic might not be working well. Oh, so I'll come to me, and I have them, I think, on my phone, so I'll read them off. So it looks like Fatima wants to know, what does the crawler transport? So what are the types of flight hardware that the crawler would move about?
Right. So in the past, the crawler has transported the Saturn V rockets for the Apollo missions that carried the astronauts to the moon. It's carried the space shuttles. Every single space shuttle mission was carried by a crawler transporter. And for the SLS program, it'll be carrying the SLS and the Orion crew module as well.
Wow. And so so the SLS is the next big thing that we plan to drive out to the launch pad, right?
That's correct.
Awesome.
There'll be different blocks of SLS rockets, and the largest block will be the largest rocket ever built, surpassing the Saturn V.
Wow, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see the SLS launch. And so for those of you who may
me
not
too.
have, I bet. So for those of you who may not have watched our previous programs.
Here it is right there.
Yeah, let me show. Oh, let me go back to Mark so he could see. Here we go. There it is.
Woo.
And there's our beagle.
And there's our beagle howling in the background. Our beagle's going to space too. So
soaring with our imagination.
That's right. So for those of you who don't really know much about Artemis, Artemis is NASA's new lunar exploration program, and so we are returning to the moon with
back in 2024.
That's right, 2024, with the next man and the first woman, which is super exciting. And the crawler transport is going to be the vehicle that takes the Space Launch System rocket out to the launch pad, and then the SLS, or the Space Launch System, will launch with the Orion spacecraft on top, and then send our astronauts to the moon. So our first test flight of the vehicles, the SLS and the Orion, will be in about a year, and Dan and his team are going to be very busy in the next year getting ready.
Will.
Yeah, getting ready for that mission. So so Dan, tell us a little bit about how long it takes to get out to the pad. So from the point we're at the VAB to the pad, and then I'm going to show that time lapse video.
Time-lapse.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it depends. You know, this is everyone's favorite answer to this. If you're talking travel time from the front of the VAB to the pad, it's approximately 6 to 8 hours, give or take, depending on different variables. If we're talking docking in the VAB, lifting, coming out and going to the pad, and also up the slope and docking at the pad, it could be 12 hours plus.
Wow.
So
That's pretty.
a very long, eventful day going on.
So how many drivers do you have in that 12-hour time frame?
We have about 10 drivers right now. We have 8 with experienced drivers and about 2 in training right now.
And so as you're driving out there, how often do you guys switch out and take breaks?
So we try to keep it between 30 and 45 minutes just to keep all of us fresh and prepared for our stretch of driving. Like I mentioned before, if you're not paying attention, the crawler can get away from you. But as you saw, the crawler was swerving a little bit through that turn. So someone was putting not too much steering and then not enough and too much, And so if you're not paying attention, that crawler way only gives you about 4 to 6 feet of tolerance, and some places even less. So if you're not paying attention, you're out of crawler way, and you're going to have to stop. And stopping and going back the other way to fix the crawler is a bad experience. It doesn't. It's easy to fix, but it's more of a pride thing, and it doesn't feel so good.
So as a driver, do you guys also work as a mechanics?
We work with the technicians. We don't do any of the manual labor ourselves, but we do write we author the paperwork for the mechanics and electricians to perform work on the crawler, and we also schedule the maintenance on the crawler.
So during the video, I could see that there was a truck spraying, it looked like water out on the road, and I noticed the road is gravel. So tell us why is the road gravel, and then why do you need to spray it down?
So the crawler needs a special roadway to travel with all this extra weight, and what they designed was now called the crawler way, which is pretty much the size of an interstate road. You got 40 feet, 2 tracks of 40 feet wide paths for the crawler treads to travel, separated by a 50-foot median. And the rocks act as a suspension for the crawler. The crawler has no real way to absorb all the load from the mobile launcher and flight vehicles. It also reduces friction when the trucks are turning. So it relieves a lot of tension on the moving parts of the crawler. And then that water truck, since as you crush rocks, you develop silica particles, and we have technicians on the ground who could inhale that. So to avoid that, we spray the rocks with water right before they get crushed by the crawler and its weight, and that keeps the particles down, and it keeps our guys healthy, and they don't get silica dust in their lungs.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
Yeah, they do. Sometimes they get sprayed by water, and that's probably another funny story. We point and laugh.
I think that one of the important questions to ask is there a Keurig coffee maker in the cab for you guys for the 15 hours?
So how comfortable is that cab? Is it air conditioning? Do you have coffee?
Right.
What are the comforts?
So the control room and the cabs and the smaller room called the comm room, which houses our fire and systems and comm systems, those are all air conditioned. And the engine rooms, they use large ventilating fans to supply outside air and blow hot air coming from the four engines that propel the crawler and provide AC power. They propel the fans push the hot air out. And Mark, to answer your question, no, there is not a Keurig, but there are a lot of avid coffee drinkers in our group. So we just drive back and forth and refill our mugs with some coffee.
This is amazing.
I'll tell you, we need them when we go do these long moves.
It sounds like a ship. The way you describe it with like pneumatics, the engineering room, laser rangefinder, it sounds like a battle cruiser. I mean, this is crazy. So I would imagine the experience is very different when you're driving it with nothing on top versus having this skyscraper up there. Can you describe that a little bit? I mean, is it kind of like, do you hear it rocking up there?
Well, first to your ship comment, the crawler is painted navy gray, like most ships are. So that's also another comparison.
Yeah.
And it does drive very differently when there's a tower or a load on it versus no load at all. You know, your command pot in the cab that actually excites your propel and generator fields that move the giant sprockets that turn the belts. That needs a little bit more excitement in the beginning because there's a lot of weight holding it back than if it was just a crawler alone. But once it gets
so
up to
huge.
speed, it's fine. and also braking would be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you brake? You don't have like a pedal with your foot, right? Or do you?
Well, you do have a pedal with your foot.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you have two types of brakes. You have a service brake and you have a parking brake, and they're both pneumatically controlled. The parking brake is set when the crawler is in standby and not moving, and you always take it off. You'll turn off the parking brake before you start. The service brake is that foot pedal that's right below the controls in the cab. And to stop, you pretty much you turn your command pot to 0, which de-excites the rest of the propel excitation fields, and you press on the brake. And if you have a payload on top, you definitely would like to slow down over a course of a few feet, or else you're gonna get a lot of rocking. And if there's anyone on top of that mobile launcher, they might not appreciate it so much. If you brake a little too hard.
So is there anybody riding up top on the mobile launcher, or is it during the ascent or the drive out to the pad?
Yes, there are a few technicians and engineers from the mobile launcher group that are on top, and they're overseeing their systems and
I see the
just kind of
catwalks.
enjoying the ride too.
There's lots of
How's that, Mark?
catwalks everywhere, right?
Yes, there's catwalks that allows technicians to walk around the top of the crawler, get to the different rooms, configure gel systems, pneumatic systems for different operations, lubrication systems.
That's cool.
So yeah, there's a lot to it.
I don't think they call them catwalks anymore if they're raccoon, right? They call them raccoon rocks.
Raccoon walk.
Yeah,
Raccoon
walk.
highways.
Cool walk.
I love going back to Ed's shot there. I love how
Is
he's got
Sam
the-
drawing with us, Dan?
Yes, Sam is
Oh,
drawing.
Sam! Hi, Sam.
Oh.
I wanted to see your drawing.
Kind of
Look at-
getting there a little bit.
Oh, that is so cool.
I
Here,
think
hold it
she's
one more
great.
time.
Hold it up one more time. We didn't quite. I didn't get to it fast enough. There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That is so
getting
cool. I
there.
love your alignment lines. Very cool. Thank you for drawing. Thank you for being here with us, Sam.
Yeah, I'm really glad she came because if I try to draw this, it would be a box and a few circles. I'm not very good at drawing.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that at all. So Diane, let's see if we can hear you again. Well, I'm gonna send to you and see if you can ask a few questions from our folks on Facebook. Okay,
Great. I've had a bunch of questions coming in.
go for it.
John from YouTube. Emma and John from YouTube want to know, has anyone ever crashed or bumped into anything while driving?
So has anyone crashed or bumped into anything?
So the crawler way has these wooden dividers that are painted green, and there have been times, and that divides the crawler way rocks from the road. There have been times where some of us have gotten very close, and some have even driven a little bit over them and crushed the wooden dividers. So in that regard, yes, there have been some accidents here and there, but it's never been anything too crazy.
Yeah, well,
like
you're
that.
moving
We're
so
always-
slow. Yeah.
We are moving slow, and we have a lot of eyes watching. The drivers, the driver and the backup driver in the cab, and of course the ground observers always watching, keeping us out of trouble.
And so, Diane had another question, but her mic is kind of going in and out, so I'm going to ask it
Okay.
for her. Her next question is, how do you train new drivers? I bet that's a really interesting
Right.
learning process.
Yep, there's a 200 question exam, and you need to get at least a 97.5%.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, that's pretty tough.
No, it's
How many
It's
years
a-
did it take?
It's a lot of on-the-job training. It's a lot of on-the-job training, and we're lucky to have a lot of experienced guys. I call them the veterans who've been there for a long time, and they teach you the process, and you watch how they drive, and they give you pointers like reference points to keeping the crawler way in track and communicating constantly with your ground guys. all in all, it takes about 2 to 3 years to get certified, or there's no big license to say, hey, I'm a crawler driver now,
Ah.
you know.
It should
It's
be
just
a
little bit of
huge
paperwork.
license.
I know.
It should be, right?
Like a banner you hang out your window.
Right.
So, so there was a question from YouTube or Facebook that asked about astronauts going to the moon, and so I'll answer this one for you, Dan, if you don't mind. But the question was, who are the astronauts that will be going to the moon in 2024? And the answer is NASA has not chosen those astronauts yet. So we usually pick the crew about a year and a half or so, maybe 2 years at the very, very most. Usually it's about a year and a half before the mission. So that way there isn't what we call training fatigue. And so you'll see an announcement maybe, in the next year or so that will announce the pool of astronauts that are eligible to go on the Artemis missions. And then the first mission with astronauts is Artemis 2, which will be in 2023. And that will take astronauts to orbit the moon and then come home. And then in 2024 on Artemis 3, we'll have astronauts returning to the moon. And probably 2 of those astronauts will go to the surface and the other 2 may remain in the Orion. But a lot of those details are yet to be determined. So we've got another couple of years probably before we hear the names of those astronauts traveling to the moon in 2024. That I'm looking forward to that for sure. All right, so we are gonna hop over to Ed. Ed, I am gonna bring you up here, and so you've got a lot going on right now, and we've got a montage of a lot of the really cool Ed Heck, World of Ed Heck art that you're working on. So why don't you tell us about it and let me know when you're ready for me to play your reel.
Sure. Well, you can go play it right now if you want. I'll talk over it if you want.
Got it.
That's just my logo, the World of Ed Heck. I'm trying to take over a little bit at a time, and now if I can get involved with NASA, I can go a little further. That's me standing with one of my paintings. I do a lot of dog paintings. I painted a stage on Broadway.
Oh, I bet that was really cool.
Yeah, I got to walk inside of one of my paintings, which was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a little
awesome.
I'm sure there aren't a lot of artists that can say they got to walk inside their painting.
Yeah, these are some of my children's books, and we recently started doing some face masks for people to help with the situation going on now, including I have a new book that I just released called Be Safe, which is for very young children to kind of help them. Kind of help explain what's going on with the situation and put a little positive twist on it for them. And you can find that at disruptedx.com. And you can download it. And we have augmented reality and virtual reality versions of the book.
That's really cool.
And it's a free download.
I saw you doing some voiceover work. Were you reading the book or were you a character?
Actually, yeah, I do voiceover work also, but for this particular book, Be Safe, I was actually that photograph. I was recording the voiceovers for the viruses. So the first spread has viruses floating around, and if the kids point at them and touch them on their iPads or iPhones, they'll each have a different voice, and that's me.
Well, now I have to ask, what does a virus sound like?
A couple of them, oddly enough, sound like they're a guy from Brooklyn. Kind of like, hey, you don't want to touch me. You're
That's perfect.
So Ed, I love your style of art. It's so lighthearted and it's fun and it's childlike. And I wonder if you could tell our audience that may not be familiar with you, like what drew you to that style?
Well, originally, I used to work for the American Museum of Natural History in New York, doing very detailed scientific drawings of dinosaurs and fossil animals. But I really always loved the way very young children draw. So I was trying to teach myself, after going to school and learning how to draw well, not to draw so technically. So I was trying to draw like a child and draw childlike, and that's kind of where my pop art style was born. I still can't draw as well as a child, but I'm always trying.
It's awesome. I love the SLS that's behind you. Wow. It's just the colors pop too. It's just beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah, there's something to that about drawing like a child. They really have no inhibition, right? So they just kind of jump into it and they just start drawing.
It kind of goes back to what Mark was talking about. The the ability to flop or to allow yourself to make mistakes, which there are no mistakes, they're happy accidents, as Bob Ross always says. But just getting back to that time where kids just drew innocently and didn't worry about what the end result was going to be or what anyone else would think. And I think that's a really good thing that we lose when we get older, and we have to try to get it back.
Yeah.
Can't apply that philosophy to the driving the crawler, though.
Now, there's some things you have to follow the rules and you have to do correctly.
All right, so we have a couple of more questions from Diane, and so I'm going to read them off since we're having mic trouble. But this is a kind of fun one. John would like to know what type of sanitary provisions are inside the crawler. Do you have a restroom? I think that's kind of what he's getting at.
Right. So we do have 2 restrooms on one end of the crawler. That they're nothing special, but just portalets that we use. And if you really needed to, that we do have some support vehicles, and those vehicles can drive you to a nearby building if the portalets aren't to your liking. So yeah, it is true. Over the course of several hours, you will be needing to go a few times.
That's awesome. So, so we talked a little bit about our raccoon friend. Have you ever come in contact with any other wildlife in Florida, or in the on Kennedy? Because there's tons.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of boars along the edge of the crawlerway. There was one instance where there was a gator just sunbathing in the middle of one of the crawlerway paths. He was a few hundred feet ahead of where the crawler was at the time, and I guess he heard us coming and he ran back into the woods. But being out there in KSC, there's always wildlife that you have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and some of them aren't as friendly as maybe a raccoon. Yeah. Although they're
you got some snakes and tarantulas too on the pad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got about 9 minutes or so. So I think we've got time to show this last video. So this last video I want to show talks about the interior part of the crawler. So we saw a lot of exterior photographs and also video, but Eves, who was in that video earlier, he's going to kind of walk us through what the interior's like, and then maybe afterwards, Dan, you can tell us maybe some things that they didn't mention. So let's take a look.
So here we are in the engine room, what takes the crawler transporter from point A to point B. This is a very large engine, seems quite complex. What are the specs on it?
So this is an original engine that came out of a locomotive back in the 1960s. That's why you see ALCO here, American Locomotive Company. Same engine that would have rolled a locomotive down the tracks back then. It's V16, turbocharged, 2,750 horsepower.
So with an engine this size, how many gallons of gas does it take to operate it?
Takes a lot of gallons. We run on diesel, not gas. We carry our own onboard gas with us. We have 2 separate tanks, and they carry a total of 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel.
5,000 gallons. Now, how many miles per gallon does the crawler transporter get?
I'd like to say we get lots of miles per gallon, but it's really only 32 feet per gallon.
What exactly is this room used for?
So we're standing in the control room, and this is where the engineers will sit while we're rolling. And we'll have 3 to 4 engineers in here, and they'll all be monitoring these different screens. And on these screens, the engineers will see things like hydraulic pressures and the leveling system and steering and engine output and just everything we would need to control the crawler from in here.
So this is the crawler transporter driver's cabin. Now, is there any specialized training required to be able to drive the crawler transporter?
There is a lot of specialized training, and it probably takes at least a year to a year and a half of on-the-job training and driving up the crawler to be able to be certified.
Now, if you don't tell anyone, will you let me take it for a ride?
I'll let you sit in the chair, but I don't know if I'll be able to talk anybody into letting you take it for a ride, though.
So maybe after a year of training.
We'll start you in the next training class.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming out and sharing some information with us about the crawler transporter. Once again, I'm Yves Lamothe from the Kennedy Space Center, our multi-user sport.
All right. Yep. All right. So
All
it
right.
looks like, sorry guys if it was glitching. It looks like my operating system is kind of freezing a bit. So I hope everything looks good out there on Facebook and YouTube. But a last question. I have a couple more questions to ask Dan, and then we'll start go around and do our show and tell and share our drawings. But one of my final questions for you, Dan, is you mentioned that there are 2 crawlers. So are they the same? Are they different? So tell us a little bit about the 2 that NASA has at Kennedy Space Center.
So
And which one's your
functionality.
Oh, and which one's your favorite? Jack wants
Sure,
to know which
sure.
one's your favorite.
So functionality, but both crawlers are the same, where they transport heavy vehicles from the VAB to either a refurb site or the pad. But there's a saying out here that's, the crawlers are the same, except for all the differences. And recently, in the last few years, Crawler 2 has had some modifications done where they strengthened the roller bearings, added larger, more sturdier gel systems and reinforcements inside the trucks to carry the additional weight that the SLS is gonna weigh. So Crawler 1 at this time supports 12 million pounds max load, but Crawler 2 can support 18 million pounds. So if you ever see a crawler going out and you're not sure which one, I have a very simple trick. You look at the brakes on the spinning discs connected to the DC propel motors on the trucks. And if the brakes are blue, it's Crawler 2. Very simple.
That's how you tell the difference. If the brakes are
That's
blue,
how you
it's
can
Crawler
tell.
2. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other differences, but just for the general onlooker, brakes are blue, Crawler 2. That's all you need to know. And I did want to clear up one more thing. There's like a misconception I see online
Yeah.
on how fast the crawler can go. I've heard some people say 3 miles, 2 miles per hour. And I think the 2 miles comes because the speedometer can go from 0 to 2 in its range. But me personally, I've never seen the crawler go past 1 mile an hour, maybe a little bit more than that. So if someone asks me what the top speed of the crawler is, I'm saying 1 mile an hour.
1 mile an hour.
That kind of reminds me, I had a Toyota Tercel, and the speedometer went up to 100, but I don't think I ever got it over 60. It was like
Yeah, it's the same on the crawler.
So we have a few glitches with our Zoom right now. Mark, can you give me a quick audio check? I just want to see if we can hear you.
Doesn't look like we can hear you. And to be fair, it looks as though Zoom on my end is about to crash. So what I can see on Facebook and YouTube is that Mark is still drawing, and and I'm gonna try to anytime I try to touch Zoom, it freezes. So I'm gonna do kind of a closing that Mark usually does since we can't hear him, and then we'll and we may have to cut off a bit early since we're having some trouble. But I know it's really important for Mark to tell everyone about STEAM, and he always says full steam ahead. Let me go back to your drawing. Hold on a second. He's going to
pointing at his drawing.
full steam ahead. And the A in STEAM stands for art, obviously, and then the rest is science, technology, engineering, and math. And art is incredibly important in the science world, right? You have to have concepts. You have to have artists
Right.
that work with engineers.
You do.
And so we really love collaborating with Mark, or NASA loves collaborating with Mark, because we bring that art component into our storytelling. Yeah, and we have and we can use the two together to show that NASA, there's a place in the world for all types of skills at NASA, artists. And we have engineers, and we have folks like Jack and I that are communicators, and it's a really important for kids out there to know that art is an important component of our lives at work, at NASA, and you grow, and it just makes a better, well-rounded person. Anything you want to add? I'm kind of rambling now.
No, I love how Mark was animating all of our comments. Like, I bet it's like if I say, "You geniuses!" Oh, pigs flying, flying pigs. Here it comes.
Oh, there's another one. All right.
Beep beep. Stress is on the bus.
So I can't change the window from Mark's. There's the duck. There's Ed Heck's duck. Oh, and there's the face masks. Yeah, we've got some of those. They're our favorites. Yeah.
Well, we have 1 more minute, so somebody's got to say it, right?
What are we gonna say?
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh yeah, we do,
have a
Houston.
Zoom problem?
We have a Zoom problem. Zoom is frozen.
I
Yeah.
just like to say this is very fitting for a crawler video to have an issue.
Yeah.
We're always having an issue. We always got troubleshoot on the spot.
Yeah.
You know? So I love this. This is great.
Yeah, well, so what we'll do is I want to thank everybody, and we usually do like a big round robin and a big Brady bunch. I don't even know if I could try to do that. No, Zoom's not going to let me do anything. And so what we'll do is I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for your time, Dan. It was so interesting. And thank you, Sam, for drawing along with us. And Ed, it's always
Can you see our screen?
No,
or?
I can't switch anything. It's all frozen. Yeah. But
Please take pictures of your final products and post them with hashtag draw Artemis. Mark's got it on his drawing right there. In fact, if you're drawing along at home, we want to see it. Take a picture, put it out there on Twitter, Facebook, in the comments. We would love to see your work, and we'll share it, we'll retweet it, and it's always fun to see how everyone interprets the lesson. So be sure to take a picture of your project, post it. We want to see it.
And
Awesome,
and
thanks.
Dan and Sam, if you send me your drawing, Mark will post it in his follow-up post with all of the art. Ed, thank you so much, Ed. I know that we got to see your art earlier. It's amazing and it's super fun. And we'll include that in our final post. And as Mark's showing all of the cool things that you can be a part of and continue to learn to draw with Mark Kistler, and we will have another episode of Draw Artemis in the next few weeks, and so we'll keep you up to date. So thanks for everybody. Sorry we had a glitch at the end. And I'm gonna close out with Artemis Generation. So thanks again for joining us for Draw Artemis with Mark Kistler and NASA.
Yep. And thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, guys.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
50 years ago,
what many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis,
goddess of the moon.
We are returning to the moon.
as a new generation of explorers.
This time to stay.
And to prepare to achieve humanity's next giant leap of sending the first human missions to Mars.
We believe our course will redefine what is possible.
That we would discover life-saving,
earth-changing science.
And that the challenges ahead will inspire generations.
This is our manifest.
For all who wondered if we could return.
For all who dreamed of pressing beyond.
This is your calling.
We go for all of America.
We go.
We go as the Artemis generation.
We go.